Welcome to the EA. Brian Good here. We got a lot to cover, obviously. Let's talk about this morning real quick before we look at the future. Morning low here in Louisville ended up officially at 39, coldest since we've been since the 8th of April. And we've got lower 30s. Some areas picked up a light freeze. Typically, you get to frost level about 36, and several locations were at that level. Within the metro, it was kind of hodgepodge there. 35 at Bowman, 35 at Fairdale. I know McNeely Lake, you guys were down to like 33 at one point near Highview, while Fern Creek was coming in at 39. So it all depended on the terrain and how much of the wind you were able to block. But look at Henryville, 29 this morning. So certainly a cold morning. All right, that frost advisory was verified, and we had pictures of it to prove it. Here's from Shirley showing the frost there on the grassy areas. This sent in from Tammy Baker, not that Tammy Baker, a different one, into Valonia. You can see the frost covering the car. I had that this morning when I was leaving. And then in Shepherdsville, even some of that patchy frost in the grassy area. So frost event number 1, widespread frost now under our belts. So what's next? Well, we got a clear sky today. You see just a few clouds sneaking in there across Lawrence County, and that's really about it. We're looking really good today. Our next system that's going to be our headache tomorrow that we've been talking about so much, it's waiting for us now, moving in across the northern United States. So let's show you I'll just show you one model instead of showing a bunch of them. Let's break down the RPM. Shows this afternoon how we warm up into the 60s. I think we'll go a little bit higher than what's indicated, about 65, 66 here in the city. Then for tonight, we get a south wind that's going to ramp up. It's going to become windy tonight. Warm front's going to be passing through. I didn't put the fronts on here, but the warm front should be passing through between 3 and 6 a.m. So we will likely hit our low temperature at that point. Wherever the front, the timing of it will determine how low we get, and then we will likely reverse and begin a warming trend as the warm front passes. That'll get us into the 60s. How far into the 60s will just be determined on the cold front part of it, because the weird thing about this front is that the cold front is going to be ahead of the moisture, the wind shift line. We've seen this a few times with fronts that it can happen. We call this post-frontal rainfall, and we will see that wind shift. So we'll likely begin our drop down to a colder atmosphere before the rain even starts. That's a possibility. It's going to be very close intact. But you can see what happens as we look at the wind arrow, southwest wind arrow. We warm into the 60s, and then at mid-60s by 2 o'clock, and then we shift right there at 4:30. We drop to 58. The rain showers then start to develop, a heavier rain band to our west. Wouldn't roll out thunder, but thunder's not a big deal with this setup. And then we're in the 40s by 7, 8 o'clock. I mean, it's a good 20-degree drop there. And heavy rain at times. A good half-inch to 1 inch of rain can't be rolled out. But then we have an area of low pressure, which is not on here, that is going to be developing in Tennessee, that is going to track right along the front and head right into eastern Kentucky. When that low moves northeast, it's going to re-enhance some of the precipitation to where it back builds a bit, even behind the front. Now that's significant because, again, the cold air is still coming in. So if we were to just have this initial band move east, like it looked like most of the week, we would very much have a situation of no rain to snow deal. But with that low, the little impulse moving along it, it kind of throws more moisture back to the west a bit more and extends out our rain chance just a bit longer to where you can see a little surge there at 1:30 in the morning to where the cold air then can catch up to it and produce a band of wet snow. This is going to be the wet, big snowflakes. It's a sloppy snow, maybe mixed in with the rain at times. You can see the little chunks of snow and the rain at the same time. Or it could go all big, wet snowflakes. It's going to be brief. Keep that in mind. It could accumulate. A snow rate will trump a warm ground. It will. If it comes down hard enough, these flakes are wet, they'll stick together. But as soon as the snow eases in its intensity, they melt instantly. So I think overall this is going to be a situation where a lot of it is going to melt. I don't think the intensity is going to be that hard to be able to accumulate on elevated objects. I wouldn't roll it out. But right now from what I'm looking at, I don't really get a strong hint of that. Ground's warm, roads are warm, no travel issues. You got to stress, this is a minor, brief event, but the first snow always gets everyone's attention. And if you're not awake at 3:30 in the morning, you're going to miss it. So that means you got to stay up all night, snow lovers, you Bots fans. It moves on by quick, and then we actually may get a bit of sun before we get more clouds in the afternoon, keeping us cloudy and cool on Saturday, and then we run into maybe some more frost and freeze scenarios Saturday night into Sunday. Let me show you a different way to look at this. This is the sounding from the NAM model. We were talking about this yesterday, but you're looking at it sideways, like standing on the ground, looking straight out at the tree line. Here's the ground level. Up here to the top would be where the airplanes fly above you, all right? So what you're looking at is temperature in red. Green is moisture. When they're smacked together, you're saturated. You get precipitation. If you can get that all of them closed in together all the way up and down the atmosphere, you got a good guarantee of precipitation in the ground. The more they are far apart, the drier it is. And the key for this is going to be the 0 degree line. That is the freezing line for the atmosphere, and it's right there. It's at a slant but that is the line to watch. When you have the red line right of that, it's a warm profile, and then of course it's below freezing up in here. So when we head into tomorrow afternoon, notice here's the wind arrows here on all the layers of the atmosphere. It's a southwest wind flow, ground up, it's warm, we're starting to saturate, the lines are coming together at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the rain begins. But then as we say 6 o'clock in the evening, it's hard to see it, but the winds at the surface switch around northwest from the cold direction. So then you see the cold air. That northwest wind pushes that red line closer to 0 right here. So the cold air is undercutting. It's cutting underneath the actual warm layer that is above it. So it's kind of cutting in, but it's still warm because that southwest wind is pretty strong, so it's pushing the other way. So we're still talking about rain, but a chilly rain because we're pushing the surface temperature downward. Then as we head toward the overnight period, we're still dealing with a saturated atmosphere. The lines are fairly close together. Notice that push to the 0 line still happening, but still we've got this nose of it to the right. It's close to a sleet profile, to be honest. It's very close to it, but we need everything over. The red line is going to be all the way over here west of that, to the left there of the 0 to get snow. And at this point, it's not there, but it's closer. But then as we get to the point where it is, except for right at the ground level, but that doesn't matter. It's a very shallow layer of warmth. Now along or just west of it, or left of it, I should say, but the lines start to separate. The atmosphere dries out. So the moisture machine chokes itself off before the changeover can happen. That's just the NAM scenario. The NAM, the run before that had them saturate all the way to the point of producing the snowflakes briefly. So that's what we're going to be looking for as we examine the atmosphere today and the model runs. That's what we're trying to find. We're trying to figure out how along that 0 line are we going to be when it comes to that brief changeover. And again, it's not a big deal because it's not going to cause travel issues, but you snow lovers, you want to know. I get that. In contrast, here's the GFS model, and you can see that it's not overly saturated, but it has the warm layer at the surface, or the colder layer trying to happen here, pushing towards 0, but it's still got to push here to the right, so there's still enough of it right to, it's mainly a rain profile, but it too is awful close. It's not far off. When you look at the Schref model, it's ensembles. It's giving much of wave country roughly about a 15% chance of 1 inch that can accumulate. Even that, I think, is probably too high. Then as we down the road, we're going to get into a setup here. We're going to have several areas of low pressure tracking by to the north. This is going to be a cold profile as we head down the road, it looks like. But I do see signs that we could run into a setup here. We're going to have a warmer pattern develop as we head toward the end of next week. So we're going to have a cool dip, move our way as we head into about Halloween and just after, and then we'll come out of that more than likely as we head into November 7th and 8th, the way it's trending. And the indices are showing, with the AL trying to go negative, as well as the NAL, but the PNA going negative as well. That tells me we're going to have a fairly dramatic storm develop across the nation's heartland, likely in the plains, as well to develop around the 8th or 10th of November. It'll have a lot of warm air ahead of it, but it's going to be a slow-moving system, which means it's going to be fairly strong. So we got to watch out for the potential for severe weather with this system, and maybe some snow on the back edge, and it could knock us back down to a chilly atmosphere again. But that is what we're seeing. We're seeing signs of a dynamic storm event that could develop. We'll see. So I've trended the earliest alert toward a 70-degree period, 7th and 8th, and we'll just see how that plays out as we get closer in time. But it'll take a while to build up to that next week. It's going to be a slow rise. All right. So that's how it looks today, guys. Overall, it's not a big deal when it comes to snow, but the big deal, I think, is going to be that temperature drop tomorrow and that chilly rain. That is really going to make for just a messy and miserable evening for Friday night. So plan your activities inside.